Welcome to Basscast Radio, bringing you the best in local and national news in bass fishing, as well as interviews with some of the best anglers from all over the U.S. With your host, Brian Carter and Hank the Bass Geek. Sponsored by Wild Wear America, Z-Bait Company, Missile Baits, Battleborn Batteries, Conrad Brothers Marine, Taylor Man's Custom Lures, Vertical Lures, and Lynchburg Arms and Indoor Shooting Range.
Guys, we are back with another great episode of Basscast Radio, and I got my boy Hank the Bass Geek. What is happening, my man?
Hey man, you know, the same thing that was happening last time. Still waiting to get my boat fixed, waiting to get my motor on. Still working on the house. You know, we're getting there, but you know, a little at a time. We're almost done. At least the contractor's part's almost done, and you know what that means? It means I don't like what's coming next because all the rest of the work I have to physically do. So
I understand. Hey guys, real quick here before we get started, we got an awesome young angler coming on and talking with us tonight, Mr. Jack Dice. But before we do, I want to show you guys this real quick. This is Turner Hart. That's his Instagram page, guys. If you guys can see all that, there it is. Hit the follow button on him. He is going to be fishing this event right here, guys. It's the 2021 Bassmaster High School All-American. Get that junk out of the way. There you go. We did a quick interview with him. Talked about something's really freaking cool. I mean, Bass Geek, 300 people sent an application in to fish this one event down in Alabama.
Wow.
And we got one guy from Virginia. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
So, yes, make sure you guys go hit the follow button and make sure you tell him good luck. The event is this, I want to say it's this weekend. So, and he's going to be fishing a lot more events this year. We get to see him more, so that's pretty freaking cool. So, make sure you guys go show some love and cheer on the state of Virginia. Talking about Virginia earlier, we had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Bryant Copley, another Virginia angler that, tore it up on Hartwell. Made the state team, so it's going to be a great year for him as well. But, guys, tonight we have with us a wild, crazy 21-year-old young man, Jack Dice. Fishes with Liberty University right here up the road from us. And he did it all by himself, one person, against a lot of teams. He won the 2021 Carhartt Bassmaster College Series at Lake Cumberland. So congratulations to him. And we're going to take a quick little break here. And then we're going to be right back with Mr. Jack Dice.
Points, cash, gear, sports. With a Dick's Scorecard, you earn points on all your purchases and get 3% back in rewards and access to exclusive deals and events. It's simple. Points lead to cash to buy gear so you can play more sports. Get your Dick's Scorecard and start earning reward certificates today. Every season starts at Dick's.
All right, guys, we are back with Mr. Jack Dice. What's up, brother? Congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super stoked to get a win so I can finally be on the Basscast podcast.
Come on, man. You're welcome anytime. Central Virginia boy right here.
Yeah, I'm born and raised right here, so Cut my teeth. Well, I say born and raised. I've been raised. I wasn't born here, but spent pretty much 99.9% of my life here. So I've enjoyed every second of it.
What's it like going to Liberty University, being on the fishing team, man?
Being on the fishing team at Liberty it's a pretty cool experience. I think it's one of those things where we're trying to build the team. It's still a process. It's just why for me, I fished this tournament alone. It's really just because we're working on getting the support that we need. So hopefully having a win like this could possibly get some exposure for the team that we might be able to use to send more teammates to more of these tournaments. But college fishing as a whole is something that I didn't do my first semester, and I really, really regret not doing it because it is a lot of fun. You get to travel around, meet a lot of new people in the industry, and fish lakes and catch bass in college. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, college fishing there for a while. I mean, they were spending a lot. The Bass itself spent a lot of money on college fishing. I mean, the Federation guys used to cry a little bit because, they hear all this money being dropped into the college and, they bringing up the next generation of anglers. So, I mean, college fishing used to back in the day, you never heard of it. I mean, when I was growing up, what's college bass fishing? I mean, what do you think, Bass Geek?
Man, I would have killed to have had a high school and college team. I would have killed to have done it. Man,
I probably would have went to class.
That would have been the toughest thing for me because I still would have been skipping class to be fishing, because especially if I'm on the team. But man, I love it. I'm happy that we're introducing the new blood into the sport and we're growing the sport. I mean, because that's in the end what it's really all about, is to get everybody out there. But so I'm a big fan. Wish there were more local schools around me that were doing this sort of thing.
All right. So for those who don't know who you are, Jack, give everybody a little quick bio about how and you got to this point you are today.
So for those of you who don't know, my name is Jack Dice. I'm 21 years old. I'm a college student at Liberty University. And like everyone on this podcast, I'm a freaking bass head. I love to catch bass. And I've started tournament fishing when I was around 16 or 17 years old, started as a co, worked my way up and fished BFLs as a boater. That's the main tournament series I fished. And now that I fish college, I fish those events as well. And so I'm just trying to cut my teeth and in tournament fishing, see a lot of new lakes and try to gauge where I'm at as far as my skill level. Because obviously, like a lot of people out there, I would love to do this full time, would love to do this for a living, but I know the reality of it. It's really, really hard. I want to make sure that I'm just trying to put myself out there, do the best I can to grow as an angler. But at the same time, going to school is something that's been good for me to be kind of keep my foot in one world and in another, that if this doesn't work out, if I don't have what it takes to compete, maybe I can find my way to work in a job in this industry. Because I still just love fishing so much that I would love to work here. But obviously that's not the goal. The goal is to make it all the way to pro, but that's a hard road.
That is awesome. Go ahead.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jack, you got a YouTube channel, don't you?
I do have a YouTube channel.
And I say this because I'm a big fan, and I know Jack is focusing on his college stuff and on fishing and becoming pro. But Jack ain't been putting out no daggone videos a lot. I'm like, Jack, man, where you at, bro?
I know.
He was one of the guys that I actually watched that was kind of, a very young man, way back in the day when I started watching, that kind of inspired me to get involved. So I just want to say, hey, man, awesome. It's good to actually get to talk to you in person for a change.
Yeah. It's nice to meet you too, Bass Geek. I've seen your comments and we've talked back and forth a little bit through the comments over the years. And so it's cool to see. It's something that's probably my biggest regret, honestly. One of my biggest regrets is not sticking with that a little bit more. So now that things bite me in the butt, but the problem is it's almost like I like fishing too much.
Well, and it's
to actually putting the time to edit.
Yeah, you're hitting a perfect topic right there. It's so hard.
Yeah.
I'm fishing a major team trail this year, and I'd kind of been out of tournament fishing for about 3 years, and I love to tournament fish, and I kind of forgot how daggone hard it is because my tournament videos suck because I'm so focused on on solving the puzzle, So man, I'm proud of you, dude. I'm truly a fan, have been forever. And knowing this guy and watching his videos, I can tell all of you guys out there, you need to be rooting for this kid, because he is one of the good guys. He's truly one of the guys who is, he's not out there, stuffing worms up his nose. This kid loves the art of angling, and I am a big fan, my brother.
Thank you, dude. Those are incredibly kind words. That means a lot to me, really. So thank you.
That's
so much.
awesome. That's awesome. All right, brother. This event, man. I want to highlight something before we go into this event. You won this thing by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a strength of yours? I mean, you think, we had someone on earlier that spoke about, the co-angler side of it, but you've always done really, really well when it's just Jack.
Yeah, I have. And I don't really know. It's hard to gauge because I haven't done many team tournaments. I haven't done many tournaments where I've hardly done any where it's been me and somebody else. And I only did the co-angler thing for a couple of years. I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot of things. I think but I've been asked about that because of this win. Like, I think that's something that stands out about it is obviously the fact that normally this is a team college event or team events. And they're like, wait, where's the other guy? So I think it's one of the things that I really have enjoyed actually about college fishing, because when I'm out there, the nice thing about in college fishing is, unlike the BFLs, there's no co-angler. So when it's out there, it's just me, the team, and the fish, and then and nature, and I get to I only have to worry about me. I don't have to worry about making the boat angle, worry about, is my co-angler going to cast up? And then if I have a teammate who obviously is going to help you, there's pros and cons to that. There's a lot of pros in that they can pick up fish behind you, but I think some of the cons for me would be just worrying about making sure that it works out good for them. Because obviously, if I'm the boater and I bring a partner, I want them to have a good time. And so, but that becomes another factor that can play in your mind a little bit. It's like, I want you to have a good time, and it almost becomes a guide trip when really I want it to be a competition. And when I'm out on my own, I get to focus, and really, it also just allows me to be in a good headspace. That when I'm out there by myself, I feel a lot closer to God out in his creation. And that just helps me wire it in. But I think both can play, and I need to learn how to do both, because it's important you can't do it all on your own either.
So what is that mindset that you get into, man? That you're out there alone, you're fishing against crap load of anglers and guys who have two people on their boats. And what's going through Jack's mind? You got to do it all. There's no net man.
That could be a problem sometimes. That one's a little bit of a heck.
You just be like me. I just boat hop everything. It's just 5-pounder boat hop, 10-pounder boat hop.
I don't have the balls of basket to do that. I'm a little too scared.
I even tell my co-anglers at times, I'm like, listen, man, if you can't get to the net fast enough, you will get hit with a fish upside the head, just because it's coming in the boat.
I have done that a time or two, but I throw a lot of spinning rods. I throw a lot of 6 and 8 pound line. It's a little bit sketchier.
Don't boat hop those. Don't boat hop those. Go ahead. Sorry, man. Sorry to interrupt you.
So what's going through your mind, brother?
Going through my mind. I mean, again, it just depends. It's just it's running through the game plan. I'm trying to, like any tournament fishing, gauge all the variables that I can control.
Right.
And that means being aware of wind direction, water temperature, what the weather's been doing over the past week, the water level. And in these tournaments, another factor is boat pressure, is like where are guys going to be? What are they going to do? And sometimes factors in my tournaments becomes down to what is going to be the most popular thing. And if I want to take advantage of that in a multi-day tournament, it's something like maybe on day one, say, well, most guys, if the pattern is, a lot of guys are going to be fishing bluffs with a spinnerbait. Well, I'm going to hit the juiciest bluffs with the spinnerbait right off, and I'm going to hit as many as I can. But I might know on day two, even if I caught them good, I might not do that because I know that that's what's being beat up. So those are all the kinds of things that you have to factor in. So it's really just about focusing, but in all of that, I think the thing that I've learned that's helped is just be present in the moment, focus on every cast, because that's all you can control. It's easy to get thinking about the next spot in the next area, and should I run here? And you have to think about those things, but you have to also pay attention to what your bait is doing every second that it's in the water, because that makes a huge difference in the outcome, actually.
So do you consider yourself a KVD of bass fishing? I mean, KVD is one of those guys. He hits a point and he's gone. I mean, he'll hit a. I mean, I followed KVD many years ago, and I watched him go down a couple points, and he didn't catch anything. He was gone. I mean, he might have been there 5 minutes. I mean,
it totally depends on the tournament.
Okay.
I've certainly been called that by co-anglers in a way where they're like, this is exhausting to fish with you. I've had co-anglers tell me that because we just get up, we make 3 casts and go, and it depends on the place. But so it just depends on the time of year. For example, at this tournament at Cumberland, the lake is huge. You can spend so much time running around that I ran around for a bit each day trying to get advantage of a morning bite. But when that didn't work, I just got in one area and I just put the trolling motor down and pretty much just fished.
All right, let's talk about Cumberland, man. 2-day, what is this thing? Let me open up my notes here real quick. 2-day event. Day 1, 15-10. Day 2, 16-14. Now, I read the press release. You said you had a bad practice, man.
I mean, from a bad as in like the problem with Cumberland this week was that getting bites was not the problem. The lake has a ton of bass in it, but we weren't able in years past. These bigger tournament organizations have been able to get an exemption. We were not able to get that. So it was 15 inches on largemouth, 18 inches on smallmouth, and Bassmaster even said they like to try to eliminate confusion. So it was also 15 inches on spotted bass, which meant that when you're trying to catch, you caught a lot of 14-inch largemouth and a lot of 17-inch smallmouth. It was kind of sickening, but so catching fish was not the problem, but finding a keeper was not easy. I did not catch a limit any day in practice. I caught 3, I think. I caught 3 one day, 3 the next day, and 4 the day before the tournament.
All right, so going into the tournament, man, where the spots that you found were practice, did you actually go back? Or if you said you had a rough, or did you find new water? I mean, no, I went back. So the last day of practice, I went into an area right near, this tournament took off down by the dam, which if you guys know if anyone knows anything about Cumberland, you watch the tournaments, typically the lower end is where the tournaments are won. So the fact that we put out down there meant that a lot of guys were going to fish there. So I knew it was going to get a lot of pressure. So in practice, I tried to check other areas, but they really didn't pan out. So I spent the last little couple hours of my last day of practice down in Indian Creek, which is like the most popular creek on the lake. And I said, well, I just got to see. And I rolled through the area and I actually got a bigger number of smallmouth bites than I got anywhere else. But I actually caught 2 keepers, which was like, okay. And so I didn't have anything else. Like I said, it's like, well, I caught 2 keepers in this area. I know you can run around too much and I have nothing else. I'm going to go in this area and I'm going to grind it out. And I'm just going to pray that I can catch 5 keepers in a day and hopefully catch a couple smallmouth. And my hope was that I could catch a couple random largemouth because I knew that they would be mixed in down there because I had caught a few largemouth. So I was just hoping that if I put the trolling motor down and maximize my time, I would come up with 5 bites in a day. That was your honey hole for the weekend, brother. Absolutely. Absolutely. It really paid off. I thought the fish I was catching, those smallmouth were spawning in the rocks. So after day 1, I really thought I had burned my best stretches in that creek and I didn't think they were going to reload. So I was really hesitant to go back there. Right. But after running around like a madman on day number 2 and not catching anything anywhere else, I said, well, I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to have to try to figure something out different. And I was able to do that and catch a big bag. Do you have any, were you the only person? You were not the only person in this creek, were you? Oh, no, not at all. There were plenty of people in this creek. I mean, you just got in line mostly. You get behind someone and follow them down the bank. Bass Geek?
Man, like I said, dude, I just couldn't be happier that you're the guy that won this. And, you know, some of the stuff you were touching on earlier, that was actually one of the things that I was wanting to talk to you about, you know, because I love, you know, especially when I'm out practicing, I love to practice by myself simply because of the way I don't have to worry about having somebody on the back of my boat. I don't have to. And so that was a big thing. I was going to ask you, you know, how much do you think, you know, not worrying about that and really being able to focus on just you and boat position? How key do you feel like boat position was for you in this tournament?
Well, boat positioning for me, it's really, because of when with a co-angler, it is a much bigger factor because you have to factor in where they're going to cast. So For this tournament, for me, these were spawning bass, but the smallmouth were spawning deep in the rocks. I wasn't sight fishing for them. I was not visibly seeing them. So traditionally, if it's a sight fish I can see, then yes, I want to make the boat as narrow as possible. I want to make sure I come up on it right. But these smallmouth were deep. I just had to make sure I kept my boat a little bit off the bank. So boat positioning wasn't really a factor, but I didn't also meant that if I drifted past a rock and the angle was right to pitch in a rock, that going backwards, I could do that. And I didn't have to worry about a coing we were possibly casting in there and having to adjust for that. All I could do is I just got to fish freely and fish whatever was in front of me.
And that's something, for me, I do a lot here. I'm actually in Virginia, but I'm around that. I always tell people, because nobody would know the town I'm really from, but the Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia area.
Yeah, I drive through there all the time.
Yeah. Well, you need to holler at me, man. Speaking of some smallmouth, I'll take you out on a couple of, everybody talks about Cherokee, which I was on, but that's what I was going to say. The rocks that you're talking about actually set up a lot like Cherokee and the sort of stuff that we fish for them, those smallmouth down there. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't care, dive into that a little deeper, because I do a lot of that smallmouth bed fishing this time of year where it's where you're not sight fishing. We don't have the, what is it called, the flogger out or whatever it's called. You're not doing that. So, and I've got a pretty extensive history on Cumberland too. And, so that's why I know exactly what type of rock you're fishing. So give us a little bit of a breakdown of what you were looking and what you really meant by those rock seams or cracks.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head with Cherokee. So actually, when I rolled through this, what keyed me in this practice is I've been fishing, in practice, you try to cover water. You throw a lot of moving baits. The water in Cumberland had a lot of color to it. But when I got in Indian, the water cleaned up a little bit. And I've been moving fast, and I decided, this is the prime area. I want to slow down a little bit. And when it rolled around a corner of a pocket in the first section, and I see this one rock sticking. The Cumberland is almost all bluffs.
Yeah.
Right.
And I see a rock, and I remember there was an FLW tour event on Cherokee where that's all they were doing was pitching Ned rigs and rocks. And that's I thought of that exactly. So I pitch it up past the rock, over the rock in the crevice. It's like this wide. You're thinking there's no way a bass is in there, but I'm like, well,
they're there, man.
I've seen it. So it's the craziest thing. You pitch in there, you click up, you're like, wait, where's my line?
Yeah.
He's already swimming. He's already under the boat.
That's awesome.
And that's how I was like, okay, instantly I saw that. I knew already because the water temperature was in the low 60s, high 50s. We had a full moon just the other week. The water had been really high in Cumberland, but it had kind of been dropping and starting to stabilize that week we were there because we got a lot of rain. It kind of stopped the falling. All the conditions lined up for them to start moving in and start spawning. So when I saw that, I instantly knew this is a deal. The question was, could I catch keepers doing it? And when I caught a keeper later that afternoon, it kind of said, okay, maybe, just maybe this could work.
That's awesome. Let's move into your setup, brother. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I
see
got some of the stuff
it
here. So this is the most unsexy thing you could ever throw. But it was literally, I picked up this Ned in practice. I just said 1/10 ounce head. It had a double weed guard. I lost the other part. But the deal with it, I just threw it in practice because I thought, well, with the weed guard, I'm gonna not hook as many Neds, lose as many Neds while practicing. But then in the tournament, I just kept with it because I was like, well, the hookup ratio was pretty good. I was worried about the weed guard interfering with that. But the other really key thing that I realized is that this little Ned head, the one with the weed guard, had a very, very light wire hook. And what was critical about that is I have Ned rigs. I normally throw a Ned rig, the Ned locks, which has a bigger hook in it. And I normally like that one a lot better. And I just think I just have a way more confidence. And I actually lost on this in the tournament at the beginning of the tournament because I was not used to this light of a hook. But once I learned to let the fish play out, I could land it and fine. The key was when you're throwing this over rocks, over sharp rocks and into crevices, I'm throwing 6-pound test line.
Yeah.
So I don't want to break off. So I can't set the hook hard, but I need that hook to penetrate into the smallmouth's mouth. So that really small diameter hook, allowed it to punch through the smallmouth's mouth without applying a lot of pressure and breaking the line. And then you just let the drag loose and you just let them fight. Now, it was stressful as all get out when they're jumping and jumping for 2 minutes straight, and then they're jumping over the net. But that was the key. So I was throwing multiple different baits. I threw a half-inch. I just cut a 6-inch Yamamoto Senko in half some of the time. I was throwing a couple of different baits. It almost didn't. It really didn't matter. You could literally pick up any piece of plastic in the bottom of the boat that was green pumpkin and stick it on there. That was my cover water and catch a lot of them. That was what I did on day one to catch most of my fish.
Day two.
So day two. So then, though I did catch a critical fish on day two. Let me see if I have it here. I got a setup similar to it. So this is I've actually in practice to find a lot of bedfish. Sometimes a trick you can do is throw a swim bait. That's a real big deal to find fish. Smallmouth, they'll come up and slap at it. And so that was the way I found them in practice. But on the first day of the tournament, I actually got lucky. I ran to the back of the creek. Later in the day, we got a lot of wind. The water was clear back there, and there were a lot of fishermen back there. But I thought with the wind, maybe I could take advantage. I actually threw this big mag draft. This is this is a Sticks Fishing. It's number 6. It's their 7.6 heavy. That's a rod I love for this bait. And I caught a 5-pound largemouth, and that was key.
Wow.
I ended up using this on day 2 to find some more beds. I had some smallmouth swirl on it. But the thing was, I realized there was just a lot of fishermen in the area, and that I'd already fished this area. So, but here's the cool story. One cool story I had. I could talk for a really long time about this. Okay, there was a cool thing that happened on day 1 that keyed me into day 2.
Okay.
And that was, I was in the back, near the back of a creek, and I had a wacky Senko in my hand. And I chucked it up next to this tree. There were a lot of little trees that are kind of suspended in Cumberland.
Yeah.
I chucked it up near there, and I thought in my head, I need to rig up a flipping bait. So I put down the rod, and I walk back, and I rig up. I'm looking through my flipping baits, like, what do I want for the watercolor? And I pull it out, and I rig it up, tie it back on. I'm like, okay, pick up the rod, go to start reeling it in. I'm like, where's the line? It was halfway down the bank, and I caught a keeper largemouth, and that one was that I only had 3 fish in the live well at that point, and that was like.
Cow.
So I was like, wow, I only caught 6 keepers on the first day. So that was a critical fish. But I went back that night and was looking at my GoPro footage, and I saw that I counted the time that the bait sat from when I picked it up, and it was like about 20 seconds. So on day 2, I'm rolling down through the same area, one of my better stretches again. I'm like, I see one of those trees. I'm like, huh. So I skipped my wacky Senko up to it. I clicked the bail over, and I counted to 20 because that's what I'd seen on the GoPro. And after 20 seconds, I go to reel up. I said, oh, where is it? And I reeled down. And I caught an 18-inch smallmouth. And that's what I dialed into. I dialed into some of the smallmouth guys were not catching, were suspended on these trees because the water had been falling. And I just would count to 20, throw it up to it and count to 20. And it was brutally slow, not very fun, but the smallmouth liked it and it worked out.
That's awesome, man.
I've dead sticked a lot of jigs, but dead sticking a Senko like that.
Yeah. Just a 5-inch Gary Yamamoto Senko. Again, basic as all basic can be. But even noobs like me can catch them on a 5-inch Senko. It's the means. So
easy now. I know you. You ain't no noob.
That's awesome.
Easy.
Again, guys, we have with us Mr. Jack Dice, 21 years old, Liberty University, and he kicked how many? It was like, I'm going back through the notes. I'll be honest.
You're good.
239? Was it 239?
212 of the 225 boats. 225 boats were in this thing.
Decent number of boats. There's a lot of boats in that creek. But that was what was cool is that once I dialed that in, it was like there were a lot of guys going down the bank throwing a swim bait, throwing a spinner bait.
Yeah.
And I just knew that got to a point where I was like, I know it's that magical feeling in a tournament that you live for when you're so dialed that you don't care that someone just went, you're like, I know they didn't know what they're not doing it right. And you can go in right behind them and catch them. And that's how it was by the end. And that's
awesome.
I don't get that feeling very often, but when you do, you got to cherish it because it's.
That's the feeling you live for, man.
That's awesome. All right, Bass Geek, you got any more questions for him? Because I think he's got to go to another show.
Nah, man, I've just fanboyed out on him a little bit. You know, like I said, I'm a big fan. And, guys, anybody that's listening out there, Liberty University, if this cat right here is fishing for their college team, daggone it, you better get out there and snatch him up right now. And you better get out there and support that college, because this guy is a spokesman for you. Money, honey, money.
I don't know about that, but I really appreciate it. I'm certainly trying.
Hey man, you're like I said, I mean, just even paying attention to the details, going back and watching that GoPro, which is something that I've told people all the time. Even if you're not going to do a YouTube channel, you're not going to do anything, man, having a GoPro on your boat a lot of times too. I coached high school football, offensive, defensive line for years, and it's all about technique. And sometimes, just like in your case, that GoPro will let you pick up on that one something when you're reviewing that film that keys you in to getting more bites.
Yeah, that's why you always see them on the sidelines recording each and every game. You always, got somebody recording, well, either sidelines or up in the press box, but, always to go back and look at that footage, because you're going to learn something, and hopefully it'll take on to the next event. What's up next for you, Jack Dice?
Well, I got a couple finals that I have not really studied that much for. I got a couple of those, but then hopefully I'll wrap those up in the next few days, and then it's off to Smith Lake for the next college bass event for me. Smith Lake is actually where I had the worst tournament of my life last year. I've only caught one bass in 2 days.
Wow.
So I want a little revenge, but sometimes those bad events are good. They humble you. It's God's way of humbling me. And I think sometimes it's the kick in the pants you need, because I went out, the very next tournament was on Smith Mountain Lake, and I won it, and that was my first tournament win. So I want a little redemption on Smith, though, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, we always wrap it up with our final question. What was your takeaway from this event? What did you learn from this event? Even though you won it, I know you probably learned something, hopefully, that you can take on to, like you said, the next event.
Man, that God is good and that I got to trust him, because for me, that's a big deal for me. It's like, I'm a Christian. And so for me, it's like everyone out there is seeking for purpose and what they need to do. Right. And obviously I love bass fishing. I want to do this super badly, but it's like, well, am I meant to do this?
Right.
And so when you have bad events, you start to think, well, I guess this just isn't going to happen. This isn't for me. But I just kept going. And when it's just, this win came out of nowhere for me. I didn't have a good practice.
Mm-hmm.
When I weighed in on day 2, I honestly didn't think I had a shot at winning until they called me back and said, I almost drove off. They said, you need to come back, because I had a BFL the next day. They almost drove off, and they're like, hey, you're leading. I'm like, seriously? And then I wasn't until the last team was about to come up that I realized, oh my gosh, this might happen. So you never know when it's going to happen. For me, it's about trusting. I learned to trust God a little bit more this week.
Yeah, and speaking of that really quick, and we're going to let you go. You drove all the way to Kerr Lake, slept for how long?
Well, I snuck it. So I snuck in to the campsite across the street where someone pulled out to go launch their boat for the tournament. So I slept in there and charged the boat for about 45 minutes and then went out.
He had a top 20 finish.
So, well, yeah, the trolling motor broke too, which was not fun, but it slowed me down, I guess.
And he said he's a noob.
Finish, boys and girls.
Look at this.
Right there. I mean,
this guy's a stick. Now let him fool you now.
See, sometimes you just get blessed,
living
man.
off those Diet Coca-Colas, but I mean, I
gotta have the caffeine, man.
Yeah.
You sleep 45 minutes, get a top 20. You better be drinking some caffeine.
I was a little bit wired, a little bit of that all day.
Brother, man, appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you talking to us. And plug your social media and any sponsors that you might have at your young age.
So if you guys want to follow me, for a long time, I've been known as Obsessed Fishing. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Obsessed Fishing, and on YouTube. It's just Obsessed Fishing. You should find me. I'm the goofy looking kid with the long hair. And I got to shout out not only the people in my life who have supported me, my parents, my friends, and family, but I got to shout out the companies that have actually taken the time to invest in me. Sticks Fishing. I like the hat. Bass Geeky. I may have copied you, but
no, you didn't copy
so
me.
I gotta thank those guys for supporting me.
Holy cow. That's awesome.
And then I gotta thank Yamamoto. They make the lure that's caught more bass than any lure ever made. So to get to work with that company is really awesome. And I've now won 2 tournaments with a freaking Cinco in my hand. So I gotta thank them for sending me some Senkos.
Yeah, who doesn't love Cinco's? Holy cow.
Man.
Who doesn't love those? Well, brother, man, good luck for the rest of 2021. Hopefully you get another big win, and we'd love to have you back right here on Basscast Radio.
Yeah, I'd love to be back anytime, Brian. Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, man. That was pretty freaking awesome, brother.
Pretty fun. Pretty fun. Big fan of that guy, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You guys all seen the photos. I mean, he's a wide open kid, jacked up on Mountain Dew. Like, what is it? What was that daggone movie? You ain't first, you're last.
Yeah. He puts the work in though, man. As long as I've known him, I've seen this kid. He works, man. Even in his BFLs, when he first started out BFLs, I mean, I seen a video where his trolling motor died, where his boat died. He wasn't fishing. Mommy and daddy didn't buy him some big, nice boat. He's worked, man. He's one of those kids that he's earned everything he's got. Everything.
Man, oh man, guys, we appreciate everyone watching and listening to tonight's show. We hope you guys enjoy. As always, the shows will be going up on Thursday afternoon. That's because I always just go to bed after this, and Bass Geek is usually at work. So tonight was pretty cool. We guys catch you at the house in the crib.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. But guys, make sure you always hit the subscribe button. Follow Bass Geek's YouTube channel as always, and follow the Basscast YouTube channel as well, because that's where the videos are going. It's if anybody saw me with Gray Buck, the last one, we're gonna put you'll listen to the audio version, and then it'll be the YouTube version right up underneath it. So it looked really, really cool, and that's what we're gonna continue to do. That way, it's there and open for everybody to. Doesn't matter how you want to listen. I mean, let me do this real quick before I go. I got the cue cards, Geek. Apple Podcast, guys. The Google Podcast. iHeartRadio. Spreaker. Spotify. Deezer. And CastBox. That's where you can go listen to the show. Please give us your thoughts. Give us your opinions. And we're looking forward to doing more of these live videos right here. And, giving you guys a different look. Hopefully you're not too scared. Just saying. So, before we go, Turner Hart will be our next guest. That is the plan as of right now. I spoke to him tonight. Make sure you guys go follow him on Instagram. That's where he is the most active, and he told me that. So it's Turner, TURNER .HART. So go follow him there, and we look forward to having him on the next show, wrapping up our little series with him, and very, very excited about that. So have a great night, everybody. Always wear your life jacket and be safe out on the water, and we look forward to talking to you guys again really soon.
You've been listening to Basscast Radio, the best in local and national bass fishing news. To listen to more episodes, check us out on all the podcasting networks. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, thebasscast.com, and Basscast News.